What's it like in your brain when you don't know what to say? Hey, it's Mikli, and you're listening to Head Time Stories, a podcast exploring what's it like in your brain. When I was in preschool, I remember getting into this heated argument with my classmate. She argued that the colorful peacocks were female, and I knew deep down in my soul, nuh-uh, they're the male ones. And it was a stalemate for a while, just two 5-year-olds bickering back and forth. You're wrong, no, you're wrong, no, you're wrong, no, you're wrong. Both of us insisting, so sure that we were absolutely the correct ones. And then she hit me with her mic drop moment. Mikli, look at the people. Who are the colorful ones? Females. Duh. And I was no. That's all I could say. I didn't have words for it. I don't know why I knew what I knew. I knew I was correct almost 30 years later, and I know I'm correct. But back when I was 5, all I could do was stamp my feet and pout and get mad and get so petty that I remember it 30 years later so I can tell the story on a podcast. How I felt and how I feel reminds me of what my aunt would say when she was a law professor, that she would design her exams to measure 2 things. 1, how well her students understood the lesson, and 2, how well they're able to express that understanding. That's me, because I can understand the lesson, but I cannot express that understanding at all. So this is what it's like in my brain. Imagine a ginormous bottle, like a jug. It's as wide as you are and maybe half as tall. It's made of clay, so you can't see inside, but it is heavy. If you push it a bit, you can feel the liquid sloshing around inside. In this metaphor, that jug is my brain, the insides are my thoughts. And every time I try and pour the thoughts out, clink, the neck of the jug is narrow. And when you try to pour the liquid out, there is a marble that gets lodged in the neck and stops anything from coming out. This is the point where I lift with the knees and try to lift that whole jar and then shake it so that hopefully the marble gets loose and anything comes out. It's hard, but with enough effort, maybe a little droplet leaks out. And now the person I'm talking to can take that droplet, touch it, and taste it. And then they're like, what's this? And I can't tell them what it is because all the words that I can use to describe what it is are inside the jug. Exactly. So I continue to shake the jug with the marble continuing to be stuck in the neck, hoping I dislodge it. I'm sweating. I'm tired. It's arm day at the gym. And if I do it long enough, if I persevere, maybe enough droplets come out that the other person can be like, oh, yeah, no, this is sesame dressing. But more often than not, I'm shaking the jug as much as I can shook in the jug. And all the other person can taste is like, is this mayonnaise? And I'm like, no. And that's only if they're not annoyed with me yet. Like, stop, you're splashing all over me. And in those cases, I'm back to where I was before, with them not understanding what I meant, with them not knowing it was sesame dressing. Except I'm also an extra layer of exhausted, and I have no more energy left to shake. And because of that, I often feel trapped inside my own head. It's an isolating feeling because I can't communicate with the world around me. I can't be understood. And that just kind of leaves me frustrated because I know what I mean. It's just not in word form. But sometimes I get lucky. Like my husband has X-ray vision and he knows what's inside the jar. He knows my thoughts before I think them. So in dire situations, I could just give him a look and he knows what that look means. And he's able to translate my jumble of thoughts into coherent sentences for the person that we're talking to. Or sometimes, okay, the metaphor is falling apart, but sometimes the marble is off duty. But it could be 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And then all of a sudden, this jug, she just be flowing. The sesame dressing is pouring all over the salad. Yeah, I've lost the metaphor, but sometimes there's no marble and sometimes it just flows. So I don't know what to make of that. Like both realities are true, that I have my good days and I have my marble days. And in between, I try to get some articulation practice in. Exhibit A, hi, you're listening to Head Time Stories. And one thing I do appreciate about the marble is that she is an opportunity for me to get creative. For the last 7 years of my career, my work has been very client based, service based, and I've been itching to teach. But these are like two very different skill sets, and teaching is a very communicative skill set. So, in the mentorship program that I'm working on to teach experience based automations, I'm reframing my goal from, do I want to communicate what's in my head, or do I want my students to learn? And now, if I'm thinking of it from the student's lens of them learning, then me lecturing at them isn't the only way for them to learn, probably isn't even the best way for them to learn. So I'm coming at it, for example, from a lens of, can I design exercises so that they can practice a particular skill? Can I design hands-on projects and assignments so that they can apply what they learned in the exercises? And so instead of seeing it as, how do I articulate this? I'm now seeing it as, how do I design a space so that the learning and aha moments they discover for themselves? And in that way, my metaphorical arms are no longer exhausted because I'm not having to shake the jar to get my sesame dressing across. Yeah, to get my point across, to get... Oh no, the marble is back mid-sentence. So yeah, the marble isn't all bad. It can feel really frustrating to be trapped in my head, and some days it feels extra lonely and isolating to not feel understood and knowing that that's a me problem. But I've embraced the marble because she's there. I will continue shaking the jug and then just making sure I get enough articulation rest days for when my metaphorical arms are exhausted. I'll still give my husband looks when I need something translated. And I am, of course, enjoying creative problem solving because that's just fun for me. And also, shout out to the jug that's full of sesame dressing. Going back to my aunt's exam questions. So she's measuring two things, right? Like how well you understood the lesson and how well you can express what you've learned. And sure, I'm having trouble with expressing what I know, but I'm also pretty good and pretty quick at the actual understanding part, at the actual learning part. That comes in real handy at work, for example, where I do my best to understand how my clients' brains work so that I can build them automations that work the way that their brains work. Like that's the whole thing. Or times where it's like, I can't find the exact bag that I want that matches my very exact specifications. I guess I'm going to have to learn how to crochet so I can make it from scratch. Okay, now you. What's it like in your brain when you don't know what to say? Do you also have a marble or a marble equivalent? Or does it look completely different in your head? Please tell me all about it. Use the hashtag HeadTimeStories or tag me on the socials at HeyMickley and let's chat. That's it for this episode of Head Time Stories. I'm your host, Mickley, and what's it like in your brain? Story time again soon. Bye!